Hello everyone, welcome back to day 3 learning objectives of a 4-day session, which is AI Creator Lab. And day 1 and day 2, we saw about the prompt engineering and the multimodal options as well. We explored plenty of tools. And in day 3, we are going to learn more about the applications, or like exploring the industry, how the industry is actually going to embrace this new capability, as well as how industry is actually getting ready in terms of leveraging it in a safer and ethical manner, and how not just the industries, like the overall our humanity as such is getting ready to embrace it in a safer way in terms of various regulations you might have seen, like EU AI Act, or like IDA or responsible AI initiatives, so which is becoming key. Like every province or every state or every country is actually coming up with their own AI ethics law, so which is going to shape the overall industry. And you might also see a lot of people who are suing in the court against the big enterprises, objecting the way that the technology is being implemented and how it needs to be called out, and so that it is adhered in a safer way. And tomorrow we are going to get ready to launch our app using Loco Noco tools. So I am excited for today's session. Today's session is going to be a little lighter. So, and tomorrow it's going to be much heavier in terms of playing around with tools and developing concepts and app. All right, let's get started. So I want to start today's session with very important data, right? So where the industry is moving towards, and which technology or which kind of skill sets are actually going. So no longer the tools and technologies are going to become more important, right? So the tools and technologies will definitely emerge overall, but then the skills that you gain, be it whether you are gaining those skills personally by yourself, or you acquire those skills through your education, collegiate education or university education, does not matter. At the end of the day, what skills you actually learned, and what skills you possess, and what kind of hands-on experience that you have acquired applying those skills is what matters in the job market. So let's quickly jump and look into what are the top fastest growing jobs and top job market that are declining, right? So we can very clearly see this data is actually fetched from, this data is basically fetched from World Economic Forum's skill report, which is 2030 2530 skill reports published by World Economic Forum. So we can clearly see that the from overall entire landscape of things, like software and AI specific, or like anything related to data specific skills, are actually in the top, right? So be it big data or AI, machine learning, software application, fintech, and all these are at the top, right? So compared to every single jobs that we see, these are the jobs that are going to grow significantly in the future. So that does not mean other jobs are not that good, but then the number of positions that will open up in the future in these roles is higher compared to the rest of the group. So let's see what are the top fastest declining jobs, like what are the jobs that are going to get shrinking, like where the jobs are going away. So a lot of clerical jobs are going away. To put it in a simple term, clerical roles are going away. So why these clerical roles are going away? Because of two reasons. One is straight through process automation, so where you don't need a human to actually be there to perform this activity. So the agents are going to take over and perform these tasks and perform these activities end to end. So that's the reason why you see all these clerical roles are getting automated. So you can ask me, like why we did not automate this before and now we are automating. So the reason is we never had the technology and the capability in terms of the data centers and the power to perform the knowledge work, reasoning capability. The advent of the transformers technology and the attention mechanism have actually opened us the Pandora box of reasoning capability for the machine. So since we are able to actually give a huge corpus of data perform like the work performed by these clerical people through FAQ documents and their standard operating procedures and etc., and also through the advent of the transformers technology and the attention mechanism and the reasoning capabilities that the agents these large language models have developed, combined with the multimodal of image recognition or etc., these clerical roles are going to get a heavy uplift because we have already lot of automation has been done in the direct chat based Q&A based interfaces, but whereas the knowledge worker is the majority of the productivity gain that can be obtained using these technologies. That's why we see these roles are going to get shrinked, and we are going to see a lot of automations and a lot of agents coming into reality. So we probably will have agents to assist, like let's say we have 50 clerks working in postal service. It is probably going to shrink to 10, and each one of the postal service clerk will also have an agent working hand in hand with them, performing majority of the task. It's just like how we have actually replaced the tellers with ATM machines, right? So ATM machines still exist. Even when you enter a bank today, there is an ATM machine, but also there is a teller there. But there is a very minimal, less number of tellers exist, whereas the majority of the work is actually done by the ATM or the straight-through processing. In the same way, if you look at an assembly line of a car, manufacturing or car assembling plant, earlier it was all completely done by the manual process, right? So the assembly will have a station, like one after the other. The belt will be moving across to assemble the vehicle. But whereas now there are certain pieces, there is a human probably there in one part of the belt, one spot in the belt, but in the rest of the belt, machines are actually doing the assembly, because probably it is actually handling a heavy glass, whereas the human won't be able to actually handle it in a most efficient way, but machines are really good at it, and then they can actually do that in a much more precise way. Whereas the assembly of a teeny tiny chip in a particular nook and corner of an engine, which actually enables electronic pieces, maybe a human will actually just only do that piece which is too tiny for the machines to reach, or probably double check that. Even the machine does the first part and the human just does the verification part, right? So that's how things are going to evolve, right? So look at this very interesting metrics of how things are going to go shrink and go away, and then things are going to grow in a much more holistic and large scale, right? So the cool part is the big data specialist. Data is going to be it is always called as data is an oil, and it's that saying is still there, and it's going to be there. So rarely I see very apart from the software and the IT and the technology, very less number of roles I can see under this emerging or top fastest growing list, right? So one is, you can see, light truck or delivery services drivers, right? So all those, still the machines are doing a lot of robo taxis. Looks like the last mile delivery, the delivery services probably is going to be more needed in as per the data, right? So, and then autonomous and electric vehicle specialist, I don't think we have anybody like such role exists, right? So probably these are some roles that will emerge in future, and then they are going to become more popular as we navigate the journey, right? So, and then security, DevOps, that's always there, and it's going to be more in demand as well. So these are like a bread and butter of any enterprise where they actually scale and grow. Okay. All right. So these are different roles that we saw, and I slightly talked about the skills that are required, right? So there is no longer one single particular degree or one particular university is going to like give you a secret potion or like a magic bullet or a snake oil to actually conquer the job market. The job market is actually going to look at your profile. The university might actually open the doors for you to get your profile in front of the employer, but the skills are going to be the one which will help you to land the job. So let's see what are the skills that are in significant race, right? So if you look at like creative thinking, right? So we don't want humans to just perform the task following a procedure, right? So the top skills that the employers are going to look at is like the creative thinking, and apart from that, like you should be able to unlearn and learn new techniques, right? So as much as it is really important to learn something new, it is really important to actually unlearn the old way of doing things. That actually bundles together the technological literacy, because you have to keep learning. People look for hiring candidates who have the ability to learn new things. Like networking, cybersecurity is going to become key, and AI and big data, as we saw the previous roles, and big data is still a space where any data related skills, that's the thing, right? So it's going to be, and curiosity, lifelong learning, which we talked about, and the unlearning piece, right? So resilience, flexibility, and agility, and leadership. So what I would say is like the Gen Z's definitely bring in lot of these skills and qualities, but then it is really important to show the employer how you are actually imbibing that and how you have applied that in your real life. So all that you have to do is to give them a perspective of what you have done and how you have proven these skill set, and that is going to definitely land you a job without any challenges, right? So these are some skills that are needed, and if you look at the skill metrics, right? The skill metrics, some skills are like really in terms of core skills, and some skills are like coming up newly, and some skills are like overall it is like needed, but it is not that much needed, or like it's not going in the cycle, right? So if you look at this 4-dimensional metrics, like in the top right corner, this is the core skill that you will have to focus, right? So the resilience and flexibility and agility is very important in terms of employers considering. So this is what the employers are actually considering as a core skill. So they definitely want this, and this y-axis actually talks about what is the future roadmap looks like, right? So environmental stewardship and design and user experience are sort of emerging, and network and cybersecurity are sort of expected to increase, but then these are core things that employers look for that. And look at this, right? So this is another important thing. Like after we have the scribes and the meeting summarizer, etc., empathy and active listening is also becoming really important. See, if you want to actually do a creative thinking and critical thinking as well, you need to listen to the person speaking with you, right? So if you're going to rely completely on the meeting notes, how are you going to actually apply the empathy and active listening? It's a double-edged sword, right? So you will still have to make the other person feel empathetic and listen to them, and then ask interesting questions. Although you have the meeting recorded, you can't be just switching your brain off and not being present, right? So these are skills that are really important, and the employers look for in any employee. Okay. All right. So we
So we can clearly just think of this as what people would like to see on your resume.
Exactly, yeah, right. So it is broken down. I try to break it down in this way, right? So
Mhm.
roles, skills, and then next is like, industry. So, like, yes, you wanted to take up a role, and you to land that role, what are the different skills that you will need? But it can actually exist in, if it is a horizontal kind of a role and skill, it can exist in multiple different industry. So you should also look for industry specific knowledge, so that you are able to create that connection with your future employer, or you are able to actually enjoy your role, because you feel more connected towards that role, like you gravitate towards that role. For example, some people gravitate towards healthcare, right? So but some people actually gravitate towards retail and consumer packaging goods, CPG, and e-commerce, right? So it depends on their personality as well, and also at the demand that is there, right? So you can say, oh no, I like all the old architectural temples and structures, and like that I want to do in something in that way. But if that industry is not emerging, you can't actually still stick to the passion, and you can't still be sticking to your comfort and look for growth, right? So if you're
Mhm.
looking for growth, look at an alignment, come to an alignment of role, skill, industry. That is the approach you can apply to formulate where do I want myself to be there, and who are my potential employers, and start top down from there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so let's look at what are the industries that are going to get heavily automated, and what are the industries that are going to get slowly automated, or like, not completely automated, it's just going to be augmented, because like, safety is important, or like there is a lot of high touch integrations are there, etc., right? So there could be
Mhm.
multiple reasons. So let's look into this, right? So as per the data, in the next 5 years, insurance and pensions management is going to get heavily automated. Their processes are going to get more and more like robust automation is going to come. And after that, if we see, like, the next industry is like the financial services and telecommunications, and CPG is the consumer goods manufacturing, supply chain, and overall IT and retail. Yeah, so these are the industries where people are looking for heavy automation. Okay, but whereas the industries like medical and healthcare services, government and public sector, right? So where you basically introduce a new policy, which might impact hundreds and thousands and millions of people, right? So you don't want to actually automate fully. You probably want to just argument and let the human do some of their tasks, right? So these are the industries that are going to be slowly automated, or like, more of a skill based workers are going to be there. But see, there are two ways to look at this. So this is what I did in my personal life. So when there is an automation happening, instead of sitting in the sidelines, so let's say the tellers are going to get replaced with ATM machines. Either you can be a teller who's really afraid, and who may actually get replaced, or you jump and learn the skills of, like, installing, maintaining, and supporting the ATM machines. So then you are in the other side of the table, where you are basically trying to automate the process of a teller. So imagine if you know the if you have the knowledge of how the teller would work, then you probably will be helping setting up the interface and setting up the process for ATM machine, so that it can actually seamlessly function and seamlessly actually help the customers to interact with the ATM machines, right? So these are the two ways to look at, like, do you want to be in the fearful mode, or do you want to actually take in charge and upskill and move into the role where you can take control and automate from your end, right? So these are the two ways you can see things. So I have literally rode the wave of RPA, robotic process automation, where I have seen some of the processes that I have automated. The teams have actually shrinked in terms of operations, and some of them have to go find another role and upskill and take up a different role, etc. And then, like, these robots have actually taken over their tasks, right? So similarly, right now we are actually riding the wave of a agentic wave, right? So where the agents are actually going to either replace or augment the humans.
So, just a quick question before we move on. It says advanced manufacturing. I've never heard of that one before.
Advanced manufacturing, so I think they have categorized. I can send you the detailed report of it, like what it actually means to the drill down. But
Mm,
to my knowledge, what advanced manufacturing means is when you are actually, let's say, semiconductors manufacturing, or like,
mm,
high heavy utility, like you're manufacturing a space utility
mm,
station, or like, those kind of or like you're manufacturing a hard device, right? So
mm,
these are advanced manufacturing devices which needs more nuances. The nuances are heavy, right? So you are not manufacturing a commodity which might actually create a smaller impact. It might actually create a higher impact, and high like precision needs to be taken care. That's what I would say. So for example, like you are actually manufacturing an MRI scan machines, right? So if you look at today, the MRIs and CT, the distance or the space between the MRI and CT is really converging. Like, the CT scans are actually getting MRI level precision. So the patients can avoid like, getting themselves, exposing themselves to the MRI radiations, etc. They don't need to do that. They can actually use this itself to precisely diagnose, right? So then this is an advanced device manufacturing, where you are combining the technology along with the manufacturing devices.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's move on. So now that actually you have seen the pathway of what is that role, skill, and industry, I want to actually just do a quick interactive session. Okay, so I'll send you the link, and you can come over and put a task here. Okay, I'll explain this task to you. So imagine you get 3 stars. Okay, so this is an exercise of, like, what is the industry, what is the career role, and what is the competency that um, you want to apply in your life. Okay, and again, this is not set in stone. Just treat this like a play, so you can the interface that you are actually seeing right now is Miro. Miro is an open source tool, and typically used for design thinking purpose, and predominantly used by a lot of industry folks. So when you are actually doing brainstorming about what is the next capability, user feature, or like, use cases that you would like to implement in your tool, or like brainstorm with a larger team. So people typically use Miro, and there are tons of templates and tons of materials available for you to use it. It's pretty fluid, so it's like a whiteboarding tool where you can do the whiteboarding in a virtual way, with all several users involved in it. Okay, so let me break this down and go a little bit deeper. Okay, sure. So here's the thing, right? So these are some of the industry clusters. I have taken it from the World Economic Forum. So pick 3 industries that you would like to see yourself into. So Okay, so and then you can drag and drop a star next to the industry that you would like to access, or like you would like to prefer to work with. So let me just click OK. Why am I not able to select? Okay, yeah. Okay, so click on this arrow to start moving where you want to see yourself. So maybe if you want to change your color to a different color so that you know which star you are taking, you can change the color as well here. Yeah, so when we do this exercise together with many people, right, so you will see um, where a lot of people are gravitating towards, and where a lot of people are, like, showing interest, etc. as well.
Yeah, I'm just figuring out how to edit it.
So click on, you see in the left hand side the arrow icon.
Yeah.
Yeah, click on that. So it is a toggle, so maybe click once and then, like, you should see a green sorry blue background, then it's in the edit mode, so then you should be able to um, drag the stars around. So the purpose is for you to actually gain a little bit of perspective around what different industries exist, and, like, there are plenty of industry and roles that are there, so you can actually go into any particular industry and then nail down a specific role, and then start specializing yourself towards it. I'll give you an example, like, so one of my this is from long time back, like 15 years back, right? So one of my relative family, she did her bachelor's in mathematics. Then I told her, hey, you need to think from industry standpoint, and then, like, specialize and differentiate yourself. If you just do a master's in mathematics, like, that's not going to set you apart and differentiate yourself. Think about actually doing a master's in actuarial science, right? So that will actually set you apart, and then you can actually land a role in insurance industry, where you will become eligible to climb the path of underwriting space, right? So
Mm.
so she was quite happy about that decision that she made during that time, and then she still today worked in underwriting, and then eventually she became a consultant, and she owns her own practice, etc. now, right? So although she deviated at later point of the time to generalize, but in the first 10 years of her career, she was able to actually leverage that, and then climb up that corporate ladder in the actuarial industry.
That's what I've been hearing too. For any math related degrees, it's only as good when we apply those skills in actuarial science.
Yes, I know somebody who have been there, lived there life. So if you're interested, you can I can connect you with them. All right, so um, you can do this exercise. Take your time. Maybe we'll jump back to the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so just to put everything into perspective, explore the roles, industry, and skills. This is the framework I recommend to anyone who is early in their career and who's getting ready to actually conquer the world. So if you are able to decipher this and create your profile in a equipped way, you will definitely be able to land a job, that for sure. And again, these are some of the roles, again, and the salary is just a as an average starting salary in a medium sized organization. Again, if you're able to crack into enterprises like Fang, Facebook, Meta, Google, and Netflix, etc., that's a completely different ball game. And you can safely say, like, you can double this, or, like, 1.5 times of the salary is what you can actually expect as a beginner itself. Anywhere between 1.5 times of these numbers, or 2 times of these numbers if you're extremely good at, right, and you are able to negotiate. So that's the numbers you can expect in a top tier companies, and any medium sized organization. This is what you can actually land and expand. Okay, so we just saw the skill assessment and the career match exercise in the mirror. So go back and perform this exercise and synthesize it. You can repeat it after some time as well, as
Yeah.
you expand, right? So career is never a linear path, right? So you will actually go take a different route, and then, like, come back and, like, recharge, and then definitely if you find a different interest, you might upskill, and then, like, assess and reroute as well. So you will have to do this career mapping activity maybe more than once in your journey. So the next topic that we want to touch upon is the AI ethics and safety. It's really important, as we are AI creators, so we need to know how and what kind of AI systems we can actually define, and how to build these AI system in a safer and ethical manner. You don't want to get into a regulatory issue and pay plenty of fine, or you don't want to actually get into be a situation where pulled into the court and sued by public. Okay, so let's take one simple example of how AI can go wrong. So we saw yesterday how, when I prompted Gemini to actually add me with the Sam Altman, it was hallucinating. In the same way, it hallucinated. It can hallucinate anytime. So if you go and prompt any large language model to generate an image of a watch, okay, give any time, no matter what, right? So you can say, like, 10:30, or 10:40, or, like, 6:30 or 5:30. Majority of the time it'll actually end up generating a watch showing 10:10. The reason is simple. Model have seen more 10:10 watches images than rest of the other images.
That's how they've been trained.
Yes, that's how it has been trained. So because of that, the model is actually more biased towards that particular placement of the uh, marks of the clock legs. So you are going to experience this hallucination a lot, right? So this is a very simple, not so harmful hallucination. But let's look into some harmful hallucinations that it might actually cause. So, imagine that you are actually screening a candidate and profiling a candidate, and then, like, if the candidate's name is male, then you will probably, like, give them or favor them to become eligible to apply, or, like, shortlist them for hiring at an executive role. So which is unfair for a female, right? So, and again, I'm not even saying this is based on assumption. There was a in few years back, Amazon was actually held responsible for such practices, and they had to release a lot of like information and notes to say, like, hey, we are doing something to fix it. Okay, and the facial recognition, right? So the facial recognition is one of the really crucial piece where you are so there are two different ways to look at it, right? So one is, like, you have a locally trained your face, and you are matching your face with your picture with another image. That is a easy and straightforward solution. But then if you are looking at, like, tons and hundreds of pictures, and then you are actually tagging a particular face, and then, like, classifying and identifying that, that's a difficult use case to solve. So, and as the technology was still evolving, there were a lot of times the technology did not actually recognize the individuals because of the darker skin tones. It didn't recognize them at all because it has not seen them enough, right? So it didn't even recognize them as humans. It was that bad sometimes. IBM pulled themselves out of any facial recognition sort of technology to stay safer, and they made this decision few years back. So you will not find any kind of a technology around facial recognitions provided by IBM at all. So like this, there are organizations carefully navigate when they are providing enterprise solutions in terms of facial recognition. Okay, so number third is like the gender stereotyping. So you go to ChatGPT, okay, and ask a prompt, describe a CEO or like describe a nurse. A lot of times you actually see for a CEO, the description will be actually pointing to a male being confident and like showing up like that. For a nurse, you'll always probably see a female a picture or like description of a female coming up for a nurse. The reason is very simple. Data was trained in that way. That's what the model have seen. But that does not mean a female is not fit for a CEO or a male is not fit for a nurse. We need both, right? So it is so important to navigate what we have trained with the model and what we are feeding, and what kind of prompt we are actually providing to the model as well, right? So let's look at some of the frameworks that are available to handle this, or like to enforce the organizations to adhere to these regulations, right? So without the regulations, it's going to be a powerful weapon in a child's hand, right? So it's dangerous, it's very much destructive. So we need a lot of frameworks and a lot of rules and ethics to follow. So this is a three-step responsible AI and data ethics framework published by enterprises for the adoption of safe and regulated AI. So first, accountability and responsibility. So who you are doing and like what you are doing, and clearly draw the lines of what is the accountability of the output and the impact of Gen AI, right? So you are responsible as an organization, you are responsible and accountable for the outcome that you are actually generating. And as an outcome of the AI behavior that you are implementing, you will need to actually do a thorough monitoring, evaluation and correcting of the AI behavior, right? Next is the transparency. So the organizations needs to have controls in place where somebody can come and audit how did the tool arrive at this output, and what are the safe and regulatory and fairness metrics that it has been tested out, and can the decision maker easily understand the input and the output, right? So you will need to create a transparency around reasoning around why it was actually done. And the pillar needs to actually take care of the fairness and inclusivity to the core, right? So what is the source of training data, whether the training data have handled the biases, etc. So I'll give you an example of a real-time use case which I just recently saw implemented for a European client. Okay, so the client wants to actually do a resume evaluation of the candidates that are coming in, right? So the training data that they actually created, they in fact replaced the names, they replaced the he or she kind of a like addressing part, and they created training data where you can actually say, hey, this candidate, this role is a match or not, no match, or like what is the evaluation criteria, etc. So they had to do this and then like give that input as a training data, so that the model can actually see using the retrieval augmented generation, where we talked about the chunking and overlap, right? So they gave this entire input to the model, so it actually knows some sort of input, and then they validated with providing, like, it's a male resume or female resume, and how is it actually responding. We created the necessary test data to evaluate and see if it is actually responding in a fair and square manner. Okay, so yeah, that's how you will have to address this responsible AI and ethics. So we'll see more data and more metric around that as well. um, yeah, so these are some assignments that you can actually explore, right? I don't want to go into this deep too much. So what are the risks that you think when you are granting an AI app to access your personal photo library? What might actually go wrong from a privacy standpoint, and from a overall fairness of using, as you are, most of you are, like, teenagers and children. What do you think, like, when you were doing a homework, like, how can you use, whether you can use AI? If you use AI, like, are you doing something that you're not supposed to do, right? Can you tell that to your teachers? So think about it, what you will do. And same thing with when you are actually doing a school contest, and in the school contest you are using AI. How is it actually going to impact your individuality or the creativity when you're actually competing with others, right? So you may have to look into what are the rules and how others are doing, and then get an approval if using an AI tool is ethical to use, etc., and then, like, perform accordingly. Okay, so let's jump back and come here. Okay, so these are some of the new age matrices for evaluating a model which is a generative AI model. Is it performing an expected or a fair output? Okay, so we might be dealing with a lot of older matrices. Bias was already there in the older generation itself, but that is not just the bias is one of the metric, right? So there are tons of metrics there. So one example is language evaluation under study, like blue, right? It compares that the data that are the generated metrics is similar to the expected output. And rouge is something which compares the generated output is aligning with the summary that it actually is generating. HAP is nothing but hate, abuse, and profanity. It is an abbreviation where it actually detects if there is any toxic content in the generated output. So do we have any PII, personal identifiable information? We cannot give this to the model, right? So there are tons of metrics, and these are some examples. I wanted to just jump in and show you some more. Okay, so this is the link called AI Risk Atlas. It's an excellent source of different metrics that you can actually look at. What are the different matrices, that new age matrices that are more becoming relevant in the generative AI space? Okay, let me put this in the chat as well. Okay, so we never had to really earlier deal with the reproducibility issue, right? So the beauty of large language model is the same. You go and ask the model the same question, there is no guarantee it will actually give you the same response the second time or third time. So
I've noticed that.
yeah, how can you control that to make it little bit more, like you can actually change the temperature, you can change certain parameters to increase the reproducibility to some extent. And how can I measure my reproducibility? Is it important for me to make reproducibility as a metric for my prompt, so that it is more controlled, right? So these are some tons of metrics, new age metrics, okay, for generative AI. Okay, I want to also show you one more link which is very interesting. So it's called AI Nexus. It's an open source project. This is the GitHub repo. And what this open source project does is really interesting. So you see, this is a Hugging Face. If you don't know about Hugging Face is the I would say encyclopedia homepage for all um, all open source models in the world. Okay. So this is called Risk Atlas Nexus. So where you can it gives you a graphical view of, based on the use case and based on the solution that you are developing, what are the risk matrices and benchmark and data that you may have to consider when you are implementing your solution. Okay. So it takes the IBM risk atlas, which we saw just now. So it takes into all of this into account. So which means they have dumped that whole documentation and given some training data into it. So it has the training data. So it is not just IBM's one. It also has a MIT AI risk repository and tons of other open source items as well. So you can also enhance it. If you find another risk repository, you can go back to this Hugging Face GitHub repo and work with the code and add that training data and include that and submit that. And if your submission gets approved, the code will start reflecting the same. Okay, so it's an open source. Anybody can work on this. So now let's test this. Okay, so medical chatbot. So I want to create a medical chatbot for triaging. Triage is nothing but as the human comes in, and then somebody interviews them, what are their symptoms, and then they try to understand what is going on with them. So that's called triaging. The outcome of triaging is identifying the symptoms and seeing whether this patient needs to be attended immediately, or they can actually go into the priority lane queue, back in the queue, right? So that's what actually the triaging as such means. So they this chat if I want to design this chatbot, what are the risk matrices that I need to take care, right? So these are the potential risk matrices, mitigation risk matrices that I need to take care, right? So for example, output bias. Okay, so the output bias is one thing which is really important, and it actually gave a suggestion of what are the potential risk mitigations that they can apply as we are designing this metric, and what are the AI evaluation metrics. You remember we saw about the different matrices here. So this is not exhaustive, but at the same time we can't be implementing all the matrices in the world for our models because it's going to be too much and hard to maintain. So according to this model, it is recommending, hey, you should use this metric, which is the provocative question as a metric, and BBQ, bias benchmark for QA, and crowdsourced stereotype pairs benchmark. So these are some suggestions it's actually giving. So you can implement these matrices, and also it actually shows you a clear network diagram of the potential risks. So the output bias is a risk, and these are related risks associated with that, and mitigation. So we can go back and switch to, let's say, we saw about the output bias, right? So let's say harmful output. So these are some of the matrices in harmful output. So we don't have to go and implement everything, right? So we can pick and choose which is important, or we will have to potentially work with the business owner or the operations team who are currently doing this, and ask them, hey, tell me what are the things that can go wrong, and I'm doing this with an agent, so agent also can make a mistake. So how do you want to handle those mistakes, right? So can we talk about that, and then we can go over this and then allow them to handpick what they want. We can even come back to the Miro and do a design thinking exercise on that, and then decide on what we want to nail down and start with, right? So start with maybe 4 or 5, and then we can actually revise and then add more based on further implementation. Okay, right. So yeah, so okay, so finally, now we looked into risk part of the AI. Let's look into the ethics part of the AI. So just like risk, ethics is basically like how we actually integrate and use the solutions in an ethical way. So if you go to the law of court, the law of court basically looks into the penal code and the law codes, etc. But also it also accounts something into accounts the morality. What is the morality that it is actually being addressed, right? So morality is also important, and that falls under the ethics code basically, right? So is it ethical to actually do certain things even though it might actually look like you are not violating a penal code, right? So for example, like you could actually use a copyrighted information but hiding it, so it's unethical to do that, so you will have to give credit, and be transparent about using an AI, right? So understand some of the limitations of AI, and like augment the human always instead of just leaving it to some awful output, right? So for example, one of the lawsuit that is going on right now is with the OpenAI. OpenAI was like pulled to court at least by 13 people, like objecting them. It has recommended the person to go and commit suicide, which is so awful.
Oh,
um, and uh, and unfortunately people have followed that as well, like it's just giving instructions but still they were actually following it, and either the parent or the companion of these people figured out, okay, hey, look at this is unacceptable. You have actually already, these people are already vulnerable, and then now the AI is going and suggesting them, oh, okay, you are hopeless, go and commit suicide, right? So that's not okay. So from a moral standpoint, it is wrong, right? So these are the ethics, which is a very nuanced code compared to what we see as a black and white rule, basically. Okay.
so testing all end boundaries is important.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So is it would you be happy if that is, somebody does that to you when you are designing the system? That's what you should be thinking. Yeah. Okay. So today we basically learned about what are the industry trends, AI risk and ethics, and also tomorrow we will be actually building an app. So now think of an app idea, putting everything together. Like what is the problem that you want to solve, in which industry, to which persona, which audience, and what's your next app idea probably. And you can even use the LLMs and generative AI to brainstorm your app idea as well. Okay, so today take time, research one of the career paths or the industry, and then tomorrow we'll start building something. Okay,
Okay.
any questions?
Not so much. I like
Okay.
this lesson so far because I didn't know much about the career trends and stuff. So that was really interesting to look at. And yeah, I've always been hearing the words AI, ethics, and bias like always together, but I've been learning with specific examples now. So what exactly do you mean bias with AI? So I got a chance to visualize that. So that was good.
Great. Amazing. So yeah, tomorrow we will actually work on the AI app ideas. So again, it is a incremental process, right? So
Mm.
we can pick a small problem statement, either a motivation coach or anything like that, or you want to go and pick up a, let's say, a much more nuanced technical problem statement and pick it up from there as well. So again, it's not something, we will repeat it again and again and refine it as we are doing this in a continuous improvement manner is what I look at things. So yeah, pick
Mm.
up some problem statement and we'll start something from there. Okay,
Okay.
and again we'll use no code tools, so don't worry about do I need to know coding, etc. That's not needed.